goosebumps every time, yeah, 713. Through the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low-key. I'm sipping low-key and hiding. I get those
Newcastle United. Wembley is a place for
you. Ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments. I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hybrid, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around me, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Good evening and welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC. That intro is a lie. None of us have goosebumps, that's for sure, and I'm sure you don't have it in the chat either. This is the reaction show to West Ham versus Newcastle. Let's say hello to the boys first. Apart from football, Pete, how are you?
Yeah, apart from football, it's been a nice weekend, actually. Nice time with the family. Nice and chilled. Obviously, we had the Halloween on Friday as well, but yeah, it was an absolute scare fest today. I've got to be honest. Awful. I just, honestly, the quicker we get this done, the better. I'm just done with it.
Good night. You want to even say hello to Chris? That's you shut down the show. Chris, was this the scariest thing you've seen all of this weekend?
Without doubt. And it was the scariest performance I've seen from an Eddie Howe team, I'll be honest. It was really, really, really bad. I won't get into it just yet, but yeah, on a personal level, boys, I'm good. Like yourselves, good weekend. Yeah, nice weekend. It's been jam-packed, lots of stuff, and it's just a shame that match spoiled today, really, because I ended up watching the Man City game just a bit down in the dumps, having gone through that 90 minutes. But yeah, really nice weekend. Feeling a bit tender today because I was out yesterday with the boys. Nice to catch up with them. But yeah, so feeling a bit sorry for myself today. But yeah, it was a good night anyway. And guess what? I ended up in the Hill Dickinson yesterday.
You sent us a picture.
I sent you a picture, and the idea was I was going to let the boys go, but one of them didn't want to go. And he was like, I'm staying in the pub in town. So he was like, give Hawley me ticket. So I ended up going in and watching the rugby, albeit I didn't watch much of it, if I'm honest. But no, it was good. It was good to get in there. And yeah, really, really impressive stadium. But yeah, good weekend. But how about you, Daz? How's your weekend been, minus the football?
Yeah, it was good Friday evening. A Halloween event in local school. But yeah, then my wife was working all weekend. I had something major, a bit of crack planned for this evening, but not the right time. We'll go with that at another stage. Apart from that, yeah, apart from the game, yeah. Grand. Right, let's get into it, boys. Let's get through this. This is the team. Trips out with illness. Kraft in. J7 gets a nod over Ramsey. Hall back in the match day squad. And I'll just show you the West Ham squad as well, because Wilson starts. And they played the strong midfield, not the one that that Dan Lawless was the one that Dan Lawless wanted, not the one that he thought that Nuno would play. Backline, he said, was rubbish, but they did okay today. But did we really challenge them? Boys, gotta get your thoughts. Pete, I'll go to you first. Thoughts on the team news?
Yeah. In terms of our team news, not really surprised. I mean, you can maybe argue Kraft and Trippier, but Trippier was down. I'm not sure he was ill. Personally, I think he was just rested. I think they're just managing his minutes. I'm not quite sure he was ill. I would not be shocked to see him back in the starting lineup come Wednesday. Yeah, but Kraft is the only one really that I was sort of surprised with. Botman I expected to come back in. Looking through the team, yeah, I was not really surprised. I really wanted Ramsey to start instead of Joelinton. That was what I wanted, but I wasn't surprised to see Joelinton start. So everything was kind of as it was. Nice to see Hall on the bench. For the life of me, why did he not get minutes today? We bloody needed him. But hey, that's another conversation. In terms of the West Ham team, I expected Wilson to start. As you said, Daz, the lineup with Lawless, Potts, and who was the guy, the midfield, Mateus Fernandez, who both played very, very well today. That was the kind of biggest change for me, but nothing I was really worried about, if I'm being honest. Even with that lineup, I thought we still had enough. So nothing really shot out at me, any surprises, but hey, it is what it is.
Chris, any surprises for you?
Yeah, a couple. I've got to give two shout outs. Well, three technically. I've got to give three shout outs. So the first one, obviously, to Lawless for picking that lineup, because I think he basically helped me out there, didn't he? Because he said this is how we should line up, and I think it was pretty much that. So yeah, he did really, really well with his prediction on away days. And the other two shout outs had to go to you boys, because you both said that you felt that Botman was going to slot straight back, and that he did. I felt that Fabian Schär might have retained his place. Obviously, I don't think anyone could have predicted, as Pete said, I don't think anyone could have predicted that Kraft was going to come in place of Trippier. I was, I wouldn't say disappointed. Disappointed is the wrong word, but I was a little bit surprised that Jacob Ramsey didn't start, and I thought he should have started personally. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But yeah, obviously we saw the midfield three that has done us so well in the past. So, like you boys, I saw the lineup and I thought, okay, attacking lineup from West Ham, but I still thought we had plenty in the tank to go and get the 3 points today.
Right, hang on to your seats. Here we go. 3 minutes in, Jarrod Bowen hits the post after a West Ham break. We go straight up the pitch again then, and Jacob Murphy puts the ball in the back of the net. It's put Newcastle 1-0 up directly after that West Ham attack. The Newcastle counter, Bruno hit the ball to pass the ball to Murphy, and he has a pop from long range, bottom corner, boom. 1-0 Newcastle. Thoughts after 4 minutes, lads, and I know Andy Ford has said to stop it after 4 minutes. This is a walkthrough, but we might have to continue through to the end. Thoughts on Murphy's goal, boys? Pete.
Brilliant goal. Dream start, as you said. That's 4 minutes in. Fantastic start to the game. Yes, we rode our luck with the Jarrod Bowen chance, but we went right up the other end, counter-attacking football, took advantage of it. Nice little cut inside, back outside from Jacob Murphy, and smashed it into the bottom corner. That's what we want to see. We don't see enough of that from our players. We don't see enough of that, taking a chance, just smashing it from distance, using the opportunity to hit it long. And he can strike a ball. Lovely, lovely goal. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, this is a dream start. Not only did we get their hopes up, where they hit the post, we then crashed their hopes with a fantastic goal. And you're thinking, this is exactly what we wanted to do. Hit them early. You saw how deflated their fans were at that goal going in. They went from like a little bit of hope to nothing, and it went absolutely silent in the Olympic Stadium. And that was the dream scenario for Newcastle United. And it just baffles me how it all went so wrong. But yeah, it's a great goal. Brilliant goal.
I think the phrase is it went tits up after that. But Chris, thoughts on Murphy's goal?
I'm laughing because I was screaming at the telly when Bruno gave Murphy the ball, and I was going, give him it back. Because Bruno had, a good 10-15 yards in front of him, and nobody was anywhere near him. And I thought Bruno's going to go into the box, and then Murphy just hits a fantastic shot. And I looked at Lisa and I was like, wow. I'm glad he took the shot on. Great finish from Jacob Murphy. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there because it quickly went downhill from there. But yeah, great goal from Jacob Murphy, and I thought, here we go. We can get it. Let's push on and get a second here and try and wrap the game up really early.
Okay, at this point in time, just remind people to smash that like button, subscribe to enable chat if you're new, and there's a new hype button because YouTube didn't like the last hype button, so we might as well play it now. Here we go.
Hyper.
That's it. It does not get better, any better than this, guys. So let's go. Let's get this done. 9 minutes. Wilson has a shot saved by Popey. 11 minutes. Gordon is robbed by Wan-Bissaka. Bowen wins a penalty off Malik Chow. Went to a VAR check. And then it was clearly showed that Malik Chow got a touch on the ball. The ball moves in when you see it play back. Went to a touchline review, and the ref said no penalty. This is all playing out here. No penalty for you guys, I assume.
100%. It wasn't a penalty. It was that. In fact, it was a brilliant tackle from Malik Chow. That's what it was. But look, when you're in that moment and you lose the ball, Jarrod Bowen, you would expect to go to ground and try and win something. I'd expect my players to do exactly the same. But yeah, superb challenge. And you only had to see one of the replays back to see that he got the ball. So you knew it was going to be overturned unless there was going to be some form of corruption in play. But luckily for us, there wasn't.
Chris, I'll go to you with this one. Anthony Gordon, was he playing for the team or was he playing for himself today?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I'm not even sure he was playing for himself, because if he was playing for himself, he didn't do very well at it either. I don't quite know who he was playing for, but no, I agree. It certainly wasn't the team. Yeah, really, really out of sorts, Anthony Gordon. A lot of people were out of sorts, actually, not just Anthony Gordon, but as a collective, I felt like the whole team were out of sorts. I thought the manager selections, the manager's decision making was out of sorts. There were so many things that were wrong, but yeah, Anthony Gordon, another disappointing performance from him, particularly when this was the season that we needed him to step up. This was the season that we needed him to be counted. Yeah, really, really disappointing from Anthony Gordon.
And I felt the last couple of games he has, but just today he would revert back to type again. But look, you're right. There's everyone played a part in that downfall today. But let's keep going. West Ham up their game as Newcastle. They don't push on to try and finish them when they're 1-0 up. We can't even get out of our own half at this stage. Then 30 minutes, Paquetá free kick, low, saved by Popey with another save from McKilman header. Then Paquetá scores from range after Popey chose to punch a clearance. Paquetá puts it in the near post. West Ham deserved that equaliser. And Newcastle did allow them to apply the pressure to us, but we were nowhere after the first goal with him. We were nowhere in that. But thoughts on Paquetá's goal, boys?
Go on, Chris. Go for
it. Disappointing. Very good strike from Lucas Paquetá. Hit it from range. I think it was a good 30 yards out. But Nick Pope should be saving that for me. Yes, I think it went through a crowd of bodies. But Nick Pope will be disappointed because he made some really big saves prior to that. And I was actually saying to myself, mumbling, groaning, whinging. I was saying, do you know what? I'm not gonna go 2 feet on Nick Pope because he did make some really good saves before that. He will watch it back, I think, and think he could and should have done better with it. But yeah, it really he should. Excuse me, you shouldn't be scoring from that far out, really. But it was a good strike, and I had hoped that Nick Pope would do better with that. But yeah, and weirdly, boys, I don't know if you thought this. It wasn't like in recent times or recent seasons where we can see the goal and we go, all right, we'll get back in it. It was really strange when they equalised. I did think, but maybe it was because I saw what had happened since we'd scored, and we just, dropped back so deep, and we didn't look comfortable on the ball. We were making the wrong decisions all the time, giving the ball away unnecessarily. And as soon as they scored, I just thought, we're in for a rough afternoon now. Obviously, I hoped, that we could kind of turn it around and it might spark us into life, but ultimately it didn't do that. So yeah, disappointing. But at this point, I'm thinking, as I say, Pope's had a good season. He made some really big saves. A couple of the saves were fantastic that he made prior to that. But it was just disappointing that, someone's getting a shot off from there and, it's creeping into the goal, because when you watch the replay back a couple of times, he gets a solid hand to it, but it's just not strong enough. But yeah, that they were my thoughts, mate.
Yeah, he made some good saves after that as well. But this one, choosing to punch it, he could have probably caught that one. But Pete, your thoughts on Paquetá's goal?
Yeah, I actually didn't think it was a great strike. I think it was food and drink for any goalkeeper. You look at the height it was, where it was in the goal, and actually, I think if you watch it back and you hear even the commentators and the crowd reaction, everyone's surprised that it's gone in. Nobody's surprised. That everybody's surprised. Sorry, that it's actually gone in the goal. I think people are shocked that Nick Pope hasn't saved it, because it wasn't, for me, a great strike. It didn't go through a massive amount of bodies where he was seeing it last minute. He could see it. He could see where it was going. He could see the ball. He had vision of it all the way through. So why didn't he save it? For me, I don't know whether it's his shoulder injuries, but he dives in a really unorthodox way. And at times like that, it really does affect him. Even on his other side, when he goes down, he dives in it's almost like a really slow motion, like really weird way. Like he's obviously a really tall goalkeeper, but he doesn't move his feet quick enough to get over it into areas where he should. He relies on the fact that he's tall and he's got long arms to get there. And that, for me, is part of the problem. Because I think if he shifts his feet just once or twice, just 1 yard over, I think it's a comfortable save. But I think there's an element of his feet wasn't quick enough. And I think his diving method is poor. Like, it's really unorthodox. And if it's injury related, that's fine. But that should have been saved. And you could see the reaction of the players when it goes in. They're almost kind of like, what? Like, how's that gone in? The fans almost kind of, it was a late reaction by the West Ham fans, because they didn't even expect it to go in. So for me, it wasn't a great shot. I think it's more of a goalkeeping error to allow that goal to get in. And I have to say, they deserved it. The goal was coming. The goal was coming. Definitely. 5 minutes, 10 minutes before that. They were just pummeling us, like pushing forward. And that's down to us, by the way, because we have this knack of scoring a goal and then just sitting back at 1-0. We are not good at 1-0. We are not good at playing football at 1-0 up. We just aren't. There's a huge issue there with us being able to manage a game at 1-0. I don't know whether it has to be a mental thing, because as soon as we go 1-0 up, we just switch off. We switch off and we just edge back towards our own goal, and we just allow teams to come at us. And for 10 minutes before that goal went in, it was coming. So I was frustrated. I was annoyed by that goal, but I wasn't surprised by it at all. And so, yeah, at that point, I was hoping that it was going to give the players a kick up the backside to go, right, let's go play. Let's get this back into the game now. Let's try and do something. And I think we hit back with something. I think Murphy had a shot not long after that. You're probably going to say that Daz anyway, but there was a shot Murphy after that. But other than that, I don't really see too much of what we did after that.
Well, let me remind you, Pete, what happened after that. But I do agree with you on after from when the penalty decision or the VAR decision on the penalty honors, we were shit, and we could not get out of our own box. But when that goal did win, we did try and push up a bit, because 38 minutes. Gordon shot from distance that was saved. 45 minutes, J7 had a turn and a shot saved by Areola. 48 minutes, Pope then saved from Somerville. And then on 49 minutes, right before half time, Botman own goal. It was Wan-Bissaka with a ball across. Botman was trying to cut it out. He just sends it the wrong side of the post to make it 2-1. And ultimately take us to half time. But thoughts on that little interplay, boys?
I just felt it was unnecessary. It was sloppy. I at the time I was annoyed with Botman because when he slid, as he's gone to hook his foot round, he needed to hook his foot round quicker to move the direction of the ball. But because the ball's come in, I mean, he's trying to defend. That's what he's doing. He's trying to defend, and obviously the ball's hit him. But rather than hook his foot round to move the direction of the ball's hit his leg and then gone in. I mean, and obviously there's nothing that Pope can do about it. But yeah, it was just frustration more than anything because again, you know, we weren't putting out the fires, and I will touch on this at the end, but the midfield today were just dreadful, absolutely dreadful. The West Ham just constantly applying pressure. You mentioned it earlier, Daz, about constantly, you know, getting at this Newcastle backline, and I felt like the midfield were not offering any kind of support. And when you look and you name the 3 players that were in our midfield today, in Tonali, Bruno, J7, like there's no excuse for it. And we saw, boys, didn't we? Midweek, players were rested, players were fresh, and people say, you know, too many games and they look tired. But why? Why do they look tired? Because they've been adequately rested. So yeah, really, really disappointing. And I suppose it kind of married up with my fears when it went 1-1, because then at 2-1 going into half time, you're thinking, oh God, mountain to climb. Still had that hope. Still, I'm not saying I knew we were going to lose by any stretch, because I thought second half we would come out and be far better than what we were in the first half. But yeah, disappointing to concede, obviously, shortly before half time. And it really, and this is no pun intended, it really felt like a hammer blow. It really, really did, because when we went in 2-1 down half time, you're thinking, right, Eddie's going to sort this out. Eddie's going to read them the riot act. And then obviously, well, I won't spoil your next part, Daz, but yeah, it felt very much the same as before.
Hammer blow. I like that, Chris.
Thank you.
I like that.
I may not like that.
That page tomorrow. Pete, your thoughts on the hammer blow?
Yeah, it was a really poor goal to concede at the worst possible time just before half time. There's people on social media, people maybe even in the chat, I don't know, that will try and find a reason to blame Botman for that goal. But Botman is not at fault for that goal whatsoever. Botman was trying to stop the cross. That's what you want your centre-backs and your defenders to do. So he's not at fault for that. Sometimes he will concede an own goal here and there because he's trying to do his job. That's just the nature of the beast. All top centre-backs across all lines of football do concede an own goal now and again. For that's not on him. For me, I've got to ask questions of my left back in this situation, because and I knew it was an issue, because actually I was coaching my daughter's team this morning and I had the same issue with the left back in our team that wasn't in the right position. You look at Burns' starting position, he was well out of place. He was nowhere near where he should have been. And where the ball actually gets played for the ball to get put in, which then Botman turns into his own goal. If Dan Burn is where he should be, that cross never gets made. So I think it's really poor positioning from Dan Burn. I think he just, sometimes he's very, very gung-ho in his left back position. And I know he wants to try and show that he can get forward and do certain things, and he attacks certain balls, but if he can't get back, he just needs to stay in position, because he really, really opened up the space for West Ham to exploit us there. He was well out of position. His starting position was more like a centre midfielder than a left back. The ball breaks down, and then it's just one simple ball down that left-hand side, and then it goes in. It was poor positioning from him. I'm not sure what the issue was with Pope. A few people are saying it's Pope's fault. Pope makes the move because he's anticipating the ball to be crossed in, so he's changing position to be in a position to react to that ball going into the box. So he's moved to our left as we're watching it on TV, but his right as it's gone in, but then because it's deflected and gone into the near post, his far post, he's not able to react to get back. So I don't really see how that's Pope's fault in my
Pope piece. I'm not saying you. How can anybody blame Pope for that?
It's not, but there's a few people that have blamed Pope or certainly put him as responsible. I don't see it. For me, Dan Burn is responsible for that goal because he's out of position. He's not where he should have been. And if he was where he should have been, the goal doesn't happen. He delays the cross of the ball and maybe even stops that ball getting into the box. Who knows? But that ball doesn't get crossed at that moment if he's in the right position. So for me, it's on him. It's poor. As I've said before, it comes at the worst possible time. At this point, we're not playing well. At 1-1, you kind of go, all right, I'll take that. Let's get into halftime and regroup. At that point, when you're going in at 2-1 down, it's a very different conversation. And it's a very different mentality that the players are going in with at halftime. It's the worst possible thing that you can ever do is concede a goal to be losing right before halftime. So, yeah, for me, it has to be Dan Burn's positioning for that second goal. Absolutely.
Who would have thought it that playing Dan Burn at left back would have come and bit us on the arse at some point? Not us. But like you mentioned this before.
Well, the thing about it is, Daz, like, what can we do? What can we do? Lewis Hall was never going to start today. He's not kicked the ball for 5, 6, 7 weeks.
I have a suggestion because it's not only me. It's a good 3 people in the chat are saying it as well. They mentioned Alex Murphy. No, okay, I know he's you don't start him. But look, what is the point of having Alex Murphy if he's not even on the bench? Like, what is for him? What is the point here? He's highly thought of by Eddie Howe, but you're not a Premier League footballer by being highly thought of. You need to be getting some game time, and if you're not, you have to move on. I don't get it really on this one. But
sorry, I was going to say, guys, if Eddie Howe doesn't think he's ready, he's not ready. Like, it's as simple as that. Like, I'll be honest with you, like, you've got this left back situation happening.
Yeah.
Like, if with this situation where you're having to play Dan Burn at left back week in, week out, and we haven't got another alternative, if Alex Murphy isn't an alternative in your squad to come on to even be on the bench, that tells you everything you need to know about his situation. And as much as people might say, like yourself, why is Alex Murphy not getting a look at? There's your answer. It's because Eddie Howe clearly doesn't see him either ready to play Premier League football, or, as much as he says in the media that he's a good player and admires his development, maybe he just thinks he's just not good enough. And maybe you'll see Alex Murphy maybe moved on in the next year or two. But yeah, that's the reality of the situation. But just really quickly back on Dan Burn, what can we do? We've not had Lewis Hall for 4 or 5 weeks. We've got Tino out injured, so our 2 other alternative left backs are currently injured. Like, he was at fault for the second goal, granted, and I've made that point. But there's no point. Just as I had this conversation 2 years ago about Sean Longstaff, we know that they're limited. We know that they can't play that position. We know what their limitations are as a player. Like, there's no point like going on about it and going Dan Burn left back. Like, it is what it is. Like, he is going to make mistakes there. Like, equally, he was great against Tottenham, but today he was really poor against West Ham. Like, we've just got to almost kind of suck it up and just get on with it, because ultimately, until Hall is 100% fit, that he can come on the pitch, and until Tino Livramento's back and available, Dan Burn is going to continue to play left back. That's just the reality of it.
But in Dan Burn's defence this time, everyone else has got a rest, but Dan Burn hasn't, as well, because as you said, we've no one else to play there, or no one else that Eddie will chance playing there. But let's move on. Yeah, that took us to halftime. Let's get into the second half. There's not much in the second half to shout about. But yeah, second half, 3 subs. Eddie clearly thought things are not right here. So he decides to ring the changes. Off comes Gordon, on comes Ramsey. Off comes Nico Voltermaid, on comes Willisula. Off comes Kraftku, on comes Shar. Eddie sending a message here, but others still lucky to be on the pitch, because I think there's even a quote saying he could have taken anyone off. Malik Shaw moves to right back. J7 kind of goes out to the left wing for a while. Nothing of note then for the next 20 minutes in that game. 65 minutes, Botman comes off, and Barnes comes on as Eddie tries to switch it up. Popey then with 2 saves in a row. Then 67 minutes with Freddie Potts on his starting for the first time. I think this is his 8th appearance. He has the ball in the net, but it was offside. No goal confirmed by VAR. Newcastle then trying to try and break West Ham down. They have to kind of go wide to try and do that because it was so congested in the middle. While West Ham are happy to sit back and soak up the pressure and try and hit on the counter. 76 minutes, Murphy off, Langa on. Newcastle push up a bit to try and force it. 89 minutes, tame header from Willisula. Again, nothing happened in this game in that second half for me. 97 minutes, then Newcastle really trying to push forward with Pope coming out to try and start the last gung-ho long ball in. But Souček on the counter, kind of just got all a bit messy. But Pope made a save. The ball kind of got caught under him, and he slid in and got it. 3-1, game over. Congratulations, West Ham. I must say as well. You guys definitely deserved it. We did not turn up at all. But thoughts on the second half, boys?
Thought it was dreadful. Thought it was absolutely dreadful. Tactically, performance-wise, there was parts of that game where I like Lisa was talking to me about whatever because she could see that she could see that my interest in the game was waning. Or dwindling.
What was she talking about, Chris?
Oh,
were you listening to what Lisa said?
Mate, it was something about a parcel or something. Do you know what? I don't even know. But at one point, I had to stop her talking because I was like, hang on a minute, because I was looking at the screen and I'm thinking, how are we set up here? What formation are we playing here? Because I've seen Sandro Tonali at right back, our best technical midfielder at right back. And I'm seeing all these substitutions being made. And, I'll be honest, I thought the Baltamade substitution was odd. And everybody at home who will remember talking recently about why isn't Willisula getting longer, you kind of saw a little bit of that today. Loads of effort, loads of endeavour, but it felt like he was just running round. But not just blaming Willisula. It felt like everybody was just running around at one point. I felt like the players didn't know what was going on in the technical area. It just felt like we were all over the place. I'm not quite sure what Eddie was trying to achieve. I think it was 4-5-1 at one point. It was 4-3-3. Then it felt like it was 4-4-2. We just kept chopping and changing, but nothing was working. It was just an odd... I'd say the second half worried me more than the first half because I expected a response, I expected a reaction, and we just didn't get one. And like I say, it just got worse and worse and worse. And when you actually think about it, boys, and I only thought this about half an hour, 40 minutes ago, I was thinking we've lost both halves there to West Ham. So we lost the first half 2-1, and we lost the second half 1-0. And West Ham fully deserved it. The goal at the end as well, it was just a shambles. It was just an absolute shambles. Seeing Jarrod Bowen running through on goal, and the last man was Sandro Tonali, and I'm thinking, who's decided that the last man should be Sandro Tonali? I just there was so many. This was the first time, boys, in a long time. And we'll get to this, I'm sure, in the questions. We've got loads of really good questions from the viewers, but it's for the first time in a long time where I was thinking, is this got too much for you, or is this? I couldn't understand what he was trying to do. It just felt a bit like who were we laughing at, boys? We were talking about it. A bit like Slot. We were talking about Slot with Liverpool the other week when he changed like a 4-2-4 formation and he had two midfielders and I think it was Bates and somebody else, and it was like, why would you do that? That's what the second half felt like me today. Why? What? There was a few baffling decisions. I just couldn't understand what he was trying to do. The second half for me was just appalling. It was just appalling. But yeah, as you say, that's credit to West Ham. They deserved the 3 points. And still fans stayed behind and did the protest, didn't they? So fair play to them for that. They could have quite easily gone, oh, we've won, let's go home. And they didn't. And I'm sure Dan Lawless will have been happy seeing that. But really disappointing, a bit bewildering. And yeah, more questions than answers today for me.
Pete, second half / summary of the game.
That second half football was the worst half of football I've seen from Newcastle United in a long time. A very, very long time. First and foremost, okay, so the 3 subs get made. Nick Voltemada absolutely should have been subbed. He looked absolutely shattered in that first half. He's been ran through the ground. He's played every single game, played lots and lots of minutes. He looked tired. He wasn't running or pressing or working as hard as he normally does, which we've lauded him for, by the way, in previous games. He just didn't look at it. And it was a game that wasn't built for him. West Ham had made it very, very clear that they were going to pack out the middle of the pitch and stop him being able to get on the ball. And that's exactly what he did. There was 2 or 3 times he was getting the ball back to goal, and the ball, he was just getting crowded out by 3 or 4 men. And that tactic of getting him involved in the game wasn't working, to the point where he was having to go out wide to get the ball, just to play little 1-2 touches. It just wasn't the game for him. It just wasn't the way they set up. And Newcastle United need to be very careful of that, because teams will see that and try and play the same. So there's going to need to be an alternative to that, because it wasn't working. Anthony Gordon, where do I start with Anthony Gordon? Absolutely dog rough, dreadful performance. Anthony Gordon, after 5 minutes, looked at Wan-Bissaka and thought, yeah, I ain't getting past him today. And he absolutely shat the bed. Anthony Gordon shat the bed. He did not want to try and take him on. Every time he got the ball, he went back to that robotic, predictable, cut inside, play the ball back into the midfield. Didn't want to attack his man. I think he did it once that I saw in the first half. Absolutely shocking. And I really hope that him getting dragged at half time is a message to him, because what we are seeing right now is a player that is just going to be forever inconsistent. But don't be surprised if he turns up on Wednesday and he has a fantastic game, and he turns up in the Champions League, and it's all man of the match Anthony Gordon, and he does all the gun signs and all this stuff, because that's what you're going to get. That for me is what you're going to get from Anthony Gordon. That is what you're going to get. You're going to get that inconsistency in his game moving forward, because it is Anthony Gordon at this moment in time this season has turned up when he's wanted to turn up. When he wants to turn up and he wants to have a good game, and when it suits him, he will turn up and have a good game. But when we, the team, need him to turn up and have a good game, he is not turning up. And someone put in the chat, and I started earlier on today, Anthony Gordon hasn't turned up and has been poor since May 2024, the end of that season where he had a great season. And he has not been good since then. And I got pelters last season for pointing that out. Pelters in the Mags Down South chat, in this chat, constantly, because I was calling out Anthony Gordon. And here is what you're seeing. I said to you boys at the end of last season, and as well in the summer, we need Anthony Gordon of that first full season, that 10 goals, 11 assists, or 11 goals, 10 assists, whatever it was. We needed that Anthony Gordon back. Now, we're getting the Anthony Gordon of that in the Champions League. We're getting nothing like that. We're getting the Anthony Gordon of last season in the Premier League. There's something not right there. There is something not right there. How can you turn that off like a tap like that and be so good one game and so bad the other? How can that work? That doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense unless it's the mentality of the player. He absolutely shat the bed against Wan-Bissaka today. He did not want the fight. He didn't want to go toe-to-toe with him. He didn't want to test himself against him. He literally did the simple game and got out of there after 45 minutes. It's an absolute joke. So I'm absolutely glad that he got brought off. And Kraft, yes, he did well against Spurs, but this is the reason why he's third choice right back. This is the reason why he doesn't play many games. It's because when you're needing someone to come in and do 3 or 4 games in a row, he is not that guy. People call him Kraft food. People call him Mr. Dependable, like I've saw from some journos and various other things after that game against Tottenham. Yes, he played well in one isolated game, but this is what you're going to get from Emil Kraft moving forward. And unfortunately, and people might not like this, is that Emil Kraft is not somebody you can rely on. He is not. When you need him, he's not reliable because he is easily played against. So that's just the point I wanted to make with those 3 substitutions. And the guys that came on, no problem with the guys that came on at that time, should I say. The only question mark I had about those subs at halftime is how the hell did Joe Linton stay on that pitch? How the hell was Joe Linton not dragged alongside those other 3 at halftime? And I say dragged, not necessarily Nick Voltemeda. He's probably rested, in my opinion. But how the hell did Joe Linton stay on that pitch for as long as he did? And you asked the question, Chris, about the changing in formations. He was part of the reason why. Because there was something in Eddie Howe's mind today where he was not wanting to sub Joe Linton at any point in that game. But Joe Linton gave us absolutely nothing for 97 minutes. He, in fact, tell a lie, he did one good turn towards the end of the first half.
Got a shot.
And created a bit of an opportunity. Other than that, he did absolutely nothing all game. And I keep asking this question. I've said it on this show in the last 2 weeks. Why the hell is Jacob Ramsey not starting? Now, Jacob Ramsey came off the bench and he didn't set up any fires. He didn't set off fireworks. Okay. But the fundamentals of his game were instantly better than anything that Joe Linton gave to that football match. Just his nice passing, his short passing, kept things ticking over, tried to progress the ball forward, kept hold of possession when he needed to. Good movement in finding different positions on the pitch. That's what I want in my midfielder. And I keep saying it. He is going to be pushing Joe Linton for a start in this team. And I need Eddie Howe to listen to the fact that these players are now pushing players for positions in this team. The second half was shocking, right? The second half was poor. We played into West Ham's hands. We did not test West Ham. We did not put a lace on them. I think there was one tame header in the 70 or early 80th minute from Will Asula that went straight into the goalkeeper's hands. That was the only shot on target up until that point. It was absolutely drab, right? We have technical players that are good on the ball, like Sandro, like Bruno. But I tell you what, there's no one that can create. There's no one that's a natural creator in our team. We were crying out for a real, proper creator, whether it was out on the wing, whether it was in midfield to play as a part of a 3, to play maybe in a number 10 role. We needed a proper creator coming in. We lack someone that can genuinely create goal-scoring opportunities for our players. And it's a huge, huge concern. West Ham will not have an easier 45 minutes than they had in that second half today. And it annoys me. It frustrates me. Because you boys are saying, yeah, well done, West Ham deserved, blah, blah, blah. But we gifted, it was a gift. It was a gift today. It wasn't well deserved. It wasn't well earned, in my opinion. It was a gift. We gifted them, a team that had only won 3 home games in a year, have just strolled up today with all the protests and everything going well, right? And we've gone 1-0 up and then we've still managed to gift them the game. That's the thing that frustrates me more than anything, is the fact that we've gifted West Ham 3 points today without them having to play anything over 75%. They weren't amazing. They weren't great. They weren't superb. They were just okay. But that okay was way better than anything that we produced on the pitch. And that's my biggest frustration. Now, last point I'm going to mention, because I could carry on, but I'm not going to. My last point I'm going to mention, right? There has to be consequences for the actions of some of these players on the pitch today. There has to be consequences. For me, it sounds harsh. I don't care about Bilbao Wednesday night. I don't care about it. I care about Brentford, because at the moment, our Premier League form is absolutely suffering. We're sitting, 13th in the Premier League right now? And yes, we're only a few points away from going up there. But if we don't beat Brentford with Man City and Everton after the international break, teams are going to be 8, 9, 10 points clear on us in positions that we want to be in come the end of the season. And yes, we went on a run last season. There's no guarantee that we're going to go on that run again. Everyone even said that run is almost a fluke run. Only really the Premier League champions go on a run like that. There's no guarantee that we're just going to go, right, 10 games in a row. Let's go on this mad run and start winning loads and loads of games. It's not going to happen. So for me, like, literally there needs to be consequences for these actions. There's players that I want removing from this team. First of all, Anthony Gordon needs a spell on the sidelines. I don't care how good he was in the Champions League against Benfica. His Premier League form is absolutely shocking. And he should not be starting Premier League matches for Newcastle United. He shouldn't be, right? Whether Harvey Barnes is anywhere amazingly better than him is up for discussion. But I'd much rather him start than Anthony Gordon, because Anthony Gordon's inconsistency doesn't deserve him starting Premier League matches. The second one is Joe Linton. I am finding it really difficult game in and game out as this season has started to understand what Joe Linton brings to this football team right now. The hustle and the bustle and the physicality and the putting himself about is okay to a point, but this team is trying to evolve into a football team. And you could see today some of the tackles that he's making, some of the challenges that he's going in for, and the free kicks and things that we're giving away. It's just like, we don't need that. We don't need that in our team. We need someone that can trap a ball and have good control. We want someone that can play passes and hold possession in tight moments where we're under the cosh. We need players that are good technically on the ball. And unfortunately, as much as we love him, he's just not that. And he's becoming almost kind of surplus to this Newcastle United team as games go on. The last one is the goalkeeper. I need Aaron Ramsdale in goal moving forward. I need him. And that's not to say that Nick Pope was horrible. He wasn't. He made one or two decent saves, but they're one or two decent saves that I would expect Aaron Ramsdale to make. But actually, with the ball at his feet, with command in his area, with the two goals that go in, particularly the first goal and the third goal, I don't think they happen with Aaron Ramsdale in goal. And those two goals are the reason why we're not sitting here with 1 point and why we're sitting here with none. And for me, in all of that, they're the big things that I need to see happen. I need them to see, and I need those things to happen. Eddie Howe needs to make a statement here that game was not good enough. He said it in his press conferences tentatively. I can imagine he's even more angry than he's been showing in his interviews after the game, but he needs to make a statement here. He's made a statement by dragging Gordon at halftime. He needs to make sure he has a run out of this team, right? And he earns his right to be in this team, and he's more consistent, particularly in the Premier League, because this is not good enough. It's not good enough. And we could find ourselves very quickly 6, 8, 10 points away from where we need to be. And you don't want to be clutching and climbing the ladder to try and get on par with those teams this early in the season.
Some great points there, Pete. I have to agree on especially on the shake-up that's needed. And I know you were kind of focusing on the Brentford game there, but even going into the Bilbao game, I'd make wholesale changes across the board. I think I would start Gordon though against Bilbao, but I wouldn't. I'd take him out for the Brentford game. And I'm with you on giving Ramsdale a shot. I'd throw Lewis Hall in as well, and you'd hope Trips to be back there at right back. Keep with Botman and Malik Chow, go for Tonali, Bruno, and bring in Ramsey, and then, as I said, Gordon, Nick Waltermaid, and Murphy. Again, Langa hasn't done anything for me again today when coming on. So no, I think we do need a shake up, and let's see what Eddie Howe does with that. And will he persist with Dan Burn when Lewis Hall is back and is integrated in, like starts some minutes, to get some minutes, and then continue, or whether he'll shoehorn him in some way. Boys, let's have a quick glance at the table because it's not pretty, but we'll look at it anyway. Here it is. So we are sitting in 13th spot, as Pete mentioned, on 12 points. It's easier to start at the bottom and work up because we're very close to those in the bottom. And as Pete alluded to, there's a nice little gap forming as well, even though it's still bunched a bit. But there's, unless our away form, and again, it's another away game in the Premier League for us, with Brentford just above us and a point ahead of us, who were many people's favourite to get relegated after the changes and the players that departed Brentford, but they are kicking on a bit. But Chris, let's go to you. Any thoughts on the table?
Yeah, but just we're just too far down, aren't we? I felt that like this West Ham game was a must-win. My positivity, I mean, you boys know, and everyone in the chat, that I felt like we were reasonably on track this season. This is a huge dent in that. I now look and see that we are 5 points. We're 5 points off fifth at the moment, which doesn't sound a lot. But as Pete rightly said, if you go on a run where you don't pick up the points you require in 2, 3, 4 games, all of a sudden, if the teams ahead of you all keep winning or all keep picking up those points, you don't want to see the 10, 12, 14 point gap. And we're not far off it, boys. We're really not far off it, and we've got some really tough games coming up. What the answer is, I don't know. It probably does require wholesale changes. But will Eddie Howe be brave enough to make those changes? Will the players react to it? Who knows? But yeah, I'm disappointed because obviously we see ourselves there in 13th. And yeah, I just worry that we end up getting cut off from that top 5, because that's ultimately where we've got to finish, boys. In my opinion, we have to finish in that top 5. We really, really do. And if we don't, I worry. I do worry. I do worry about potentially going backwards, which is obviously what we really want to avoid. So yeah, I have concerns, and really I think it will be how it not. And I don't even mean how we react against Bilbao, because I expect us to turn up against Bilbao. I expect us to perform against Bilbao. It's that Brentford game, as Pete mentioned. It's that next Premier League game against Brentford. Because if we don't win that, and Brentford, or God forbid, if Brentford beat us, all of a sudden we're finding ourselves 4 points behind Brentford, and probably even further behind other teams higher up.
Pete, anything you want to add on the table?
We're as close to the bottom 3 than we are to the top 5. That should tell you everything you need to know about Newcastle's situation. We are right on a knife edge. And what we do moving forward in the Premier League in the next few games are absolutely crucial to where we're going to go this season. People will play down that these games are must win. Today was an absolute must win. I had a conversation with someone today and they were saying, it's not a must win today. It's not a must win today. Yes, it was. It absolutely was a must win. When you've got a team that's second from bottom and you're going away to them, a team that hasn't won at home or won only 3 games at home for a year, and a team that we played today that we've won their ground more recently before they had going into this game. When we won there just before the Carabao Cup final, they'd not won there since.
Yeah,
we've actually won there going into today more recently than they had. When you're going to look at a game like that, that is a must win. Even a point's not good enough because you have to win those matches. If you're going to be fighting at the top of the table, you cannot afford to drop points in games like that. And we've got 0. We've walked away with absolutely nothing. So that was a must win that we failed to win. Brentford, which is a much tougher game, and they've got a brilliant home record at the moment, it now becomes a must win. We have to take 3 points. 1 point is not enough, because then you're going to get other teams above you that are going to win matches that are going to create a bigger gap for us to claw back. And we cannot expect that we're going to go on another 8 to 10 win game run that's going to make things all better. It's not going to happen. And the fact that we've got so many big teams, we've got the Emirates, we've got the Etihad, we've got Anfield, all still to play and go to this season, means that these away days have to be won. These points have to be picked up. Like it's becoming, for the Premier League season, it's becoming a real crucial period of time. Yes, we're very happy we're in the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup. Yes, we're very happy that we're in a really kind of good and steady position in the Champions League. But if you want to be back in the Champions League, playing Champions League football next season, you've got to do your business in the Premier League. You have to pick up Premier League points. You cannot turn up in a Premier League game and go, I'll play at 50% in this one, but I'll turn up on Tuesday in the Champions League, or I'll turn up on Wednesday. Champions League. You can't do that. And what really baffles me with Newcastle, Eddie Howe to a point, but certainly these players, is that they keep banging on about having to play 3 games a week. I'm sorry, right? You guys are supposed to be elite athletes, and they are elite athletes. We've got some elite athletes in our team. I don't see Liverpool's, I don't see Man City's, I don't see Real Madrid's and teams like that who we aspire to be moaning about the fact that they play 3 games a week. And if they do, they don't do it often. And you've got players in those teams that play week in, week out. If you want to be an elite player, like we hear that Eddie Howe tells us that Anthony Gordon wants to aspire to be, that Bruno Guimaraes wants to be, that Sandro Tonali is, in my opinion, Nick Voltemade wants to be. You know, we could go through the team. Sven Botman as another example. Malik Chow, but wasn't moaning when he was playing Champions League football 3 games a week, playing Serie A, Champions League, Serie A. If you want to be an elite player, you've got to get used to playing 3 games a week. Because if you're an elite player, you're playing for an elite team that's playing Champions League football 3 games a week. It's as simple as that. Like, we have to stop using this as an excuse. Bruno Guimaraes looked absolutely tired, dead on his feet again. He was on the bench against Spurs. How can our captain put in a performance like that when he's been rested? You might as well have just played him against Spurs if he's going to put him in a performance like that. I don't get this myth that like it's going to be difficult for us because certain players can't play 3 games a week. If you can't play 3 games a week, then you're not going to be at the top of football. You're just not going to make it at the top of football if you can't do it.
And you forget about tournament football as well, because the games come thick and fast in that as well. Boys, let's go to some questions and comments. What have we got for us, Chris?
Okay. Right. First one. Dave Bowman, who's been a member for 26 months. Thank you very much, Dave. Top man. He says, how after 5 subs did Bruno and Joe Linton stay on?
There you go.
That's a great point. I would have taken off J7 as well, much like what Pete said there. Bruno wasn't at it either today, but you know, Bruno does come up with the goods towards the end of games as well. So for that chance, I would have kept him on, but no, he didn't deserve to stay on today. None of them, apart from the likes of Malik Chow, anyone else could have gone off as well.
Mm-hmm. Pete, I'm going to come to you on this because you touched on it a bit earlier. It's for Mark Howe. And Mark says, time to give Ramsdale his chance. Are you starting Adam Ramsdale against Bilbao, or are you starting Adam Ramsdale against Brentford?
Yeah, I'm giving Adam Ramsdale his start on Wednesday if it's up to me. And I'm giving him his start against Brentford too. I'm giving him his chance to play in this team. He's earned it by playing brilliantly against Spurs. Give him an opportunity. Why not? Why not? If it doesn't work out, we go back to Pope. Pope gets his shot back in the team. That's why we've got 2 evenly matched goalkeepers for this reason. If a goalkeeper makes performances as bad as that, you bring the other one in. It's as simple as that. You bring it in. I'm just looking at Rafa Leao. He's just produced a superb assist for Pavlovic. Someone that can actually run it his fullback. Just left him for dead. Put the ball on a plate for his man. That's what I want. I want a player like that. Not necessarily Rafa Leao, but someone that's gonna do the business. He is a guy that has all the attributes that can play in this Newcastle United team. Just an example, but yeah.
Right. Big shout out to Jasp Max, who's just become a YouTube member, just become a loads of bullshit. Thank you very much, Jasp Max. Much appreciated, mate.
Nice one, mate.
Okay. Let me see. So a couple of Gordon comments here. So I'll go to you for this, Daz, and then Deutsch Mag says Gordon needs to be dropped for the Champions League. He can't pick and choose when he turns it on. Dreadful today. And we did have another Gordon comment, actually. Yes, and in fact, I'll say that one for Pete. So what are you starting, Anthony Gordon, on Wednesday, Daz? I mean, I touched on it very briefly earlier and saying For me, I particularly if we're seeing that Anthony Gordon is, really raising his levels and really performing very well in the Champions League, would that send a big message from Eddie Howe if he was like, you're not starting, I'm going to start Harvey Barnes? What would you do in Eddie Howe's position? Are you starting Gordon on Wednesday?
If I'm Eddie Howe, I'm not going to shoot myself in the foot for the Champions League game. I'm going to play Gordon, but I would take the frustration and take him out of the Premier League game against Brentford, because he will turn up on. We all know he will turn up in the Champions League game. And are we like, if we don't play him on that? I don't know. Are we going to get that reaction from him? And if he goes into the Premier League game then against Brentford, I'm not so sure. So that's why I would play him on Wednesday in the Champions League. But I would take him out. I'd start Barnes then against Brentford.
Mm.
And the other thing on Gordon, I've said it already. We've said it a couple of shows now. It's just I thought he's played well in the last game or two, but again, to me today, just he's been playing for himself and for that shot of the World Cup, and not for the team. It just too selfish at times, and the same trick cutting inside the whole time. He wasn't. There was no spark in him today whatsoever. In Anthony Gordon.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. And yeah, we did see that cutting a lot of the time, didn't we? And we also saw him giving away possession a hell of a lot as well. And Pete, Bradley says, "What's happened to Gordon?" He asks you what has happened to Gordon, and I'd like to know your thoughts as well, Pete, on whether you're starting Anthony Gordon on Wednesday, or are you dropping him and maybe making him start against Brentford, as if to say, no, you're going to perform when we need you to perform. What are your thoughts on that?
Two things have happened to Anthony Gordon: Liverpool and England. They're the two things that have happened to Anthony Gordon. The move where he was very close to going to Liverpool has completely thrown him, completely thrown his head. And that messed with him last season. It took him a year to get his head right and be fully committed to Newcastle United. And I say fully committed, I'm not convinced that he is fully committed to Newcastle United. That might be controversial, but that's just my opinion. I'm not sure he's fully committed to Newcastle United. I think if a top team shows any interest in him, I think he's pushing to leave. I think he's pushing to get out. That's just my opinion. The second thing is England. He is so desperate to be a regular for England that seems to be the priority. He wants to be in a position where he's constantly mingling with a top elite level players, which is fine. It's fine, but what he's doing, he's picking and choosing when his performances are to benefit him. So it wouldn't surprise me, and I've said it before at the beginning of the show, wouldn't surprise me if he turns up on Wednesday and plays and has a great game, has that man of the match, gun signs, blah, blah, blah. It wouldn't surprise me if I see all of that on Wednesday. And that will probably be enough for him to be picked again into the England squad. That seems to be his priority right now, because if his priority was Newcastle, his priority would be turning up week in and week out. His priority would be honing his skills to make sure that he fits this system of football week in, week out. I can't say that he tried today and it just didn't work out. If Anthony Gordon was trying to make things happen for Newcastle United and it didn't work out and it just wasn't happening, you hold your hands up and go, you know what? He's tried. Didn't work today. It's one of those games, you move on to the next one. I cannot say that Anthony Gordon tried in that first half. And I know Eddie Howe has asked that question. I'm really glad that some of the journos really pushed Eddie Howe for some questions about whether the players were trying hard today, because I have to say there was an element of that in my mindset watching the game about, are these players even really kind of giving their all for the team today? Are they actually all trying to win? And Eddie Howe kind of batted it back and said, that I wouldn't have players that wouldn't try for my team this Saturday. But I'm not sure about Anthony Gordon. Like I said, he shut the bed today against Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He did not want that fight. He did not show me that he was doing everything he could to beat his man, to get chances for Newcastle United. And that's, for me, is a big concern moving forward. I cannot have a winger that's one of our main players in this team deciding to turn up when he wants to turn up. When he turns up like Benfica, he's excellent. Superb. We give him all the superlatives and he deserves them. But when he decides to play like this today, and it is a decision, where he decides whether he wants it or not today, like today, it don't sit right with me. It doesn't sit right with me. And people might think that I'm going on at Anthony Gordon. I see potential of him being a very, very good player, a top level player in this country playing for Newcastle United. I see the potential there, but I don't think he's maximising his potential at Newcastle United. I don't think he's given us enough. And I'm harsh on him because I want to see what I saw 2 years ago. And I'm not seeing it right now, far from it.
Then just, sorry, Chris, then is it like, and I know this will be very difficult for him to figure out, but is it on Eddie Howe to kind of for that to twig with him, and that and if he's going to be like that, and maybe you don't know until he takes the pitch, but then that's when you start Barnes and share the load more with Barnes. Like Barnes is great as an impact player, but we saw it ourselves actually incidentally against West Ham when we won that game 4-3 at St James's Park. But it's difficult, I think, for how to twig that. But he needs to be of that kind of mindset, I think, as well.
This is why I'd love him to start Harvey Barnes against Bilbao. This is the very reason, because I almost feel like you've almost given him what he wants. Anthony Gordon, and we all know this, Anthony Gordon wants to perform at the highest stage. Pete, as you said it, he wants to be the main guy on the main stage. So almost going, well, no, you're not playing Wednesday. After that, you're not playing Wednesday. Barnes is playing. And I just wonder whether that might, yes, you could say that, and I think it's a fair point that, you're cutting your nose off to spite your face, but then at the same time, if you're thinking longevity, because then if you're starting him, is that not Eddie Howe saying to Harvey? Is if you start him, is that not Eddie Howe saying to Anthony Gordon, yeah, just do what you want, just turn up when you want, it's no problem. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. It's a tough. It's a tough decision, a really, really tough decision for him to make. Yeah, and it won't be an easy one, but something, it does feel, boys, like something has to change here. On the subject of wingers, boys, I'll come to you on this one first, Pete. Trippier for Prime Minister says, and you could argue it's a fair point. He says Eddie Howe has signed 3 wingers, but Murphy is still our best one. Does that concern you at all, Pete?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Yes, because when you're signing and bringing wingers into the club, you expect them to be better than what you've already got, and you expect them to be a trade up. Look, let's not kind of beat around the bush here. Newcastle United and Eddie Howe wanted Brian Mbeumo. Like that's it's a given. I think that was their one and only major choice that they wanted in that right wing position. And if we'd have had him, and as you're seeing from Man United now, he's playing fantastically well. He's probably one of their best performers, if not the best performer in their team. So you're looking at the levels that we could have got had we signed him. I'm not gonna smash Elanga too much, because we have to remember here with Anthony Elanga. Anthony Elanga was signed to play with Alexander Isak. He was like, let's not beat around the bush here. He was signed to play with Alexander Isak. He was signed to play with a different type of striker than what Nick Voltermader is. So as soon as Isak leaves, that throws the whole notion of buying Anthony Elanga out the window. It just throws it out the window. So now we're having to recreate Anthony Elanga. That's what we're doing right now. And this is why I'm not smashing him. That's why I'm not having a go at him. This is why I'm not hammering him. He deserves to be on the bench. He's not giving us enough. We all know that. But Eddie Howe is having to redevelop him. He's having to kind of build him in a different mold again, because Anthony Elanga is a counter-attacking winger. That's what he did at Forest. That's why he performed so well last season. Now, we're a possession-based team that likes to hold possession. So he's having to play a completely different style. He's learning to play a brand new way of playing at Newcastle United. And that's going to be time, and that's going to be patience. Whether Newcastle fans have got that is another question. But that's not to mean he's a bad player. It means he's we're building something new. Harvey Barnes is Harvey Barnes. Harvey Barnes will score goals for you when given the opportunity, but he isn't a runner. He isn't a give all in terms of work rate, tracking back, doing all that stuff. He is a guy. He's a killer. I always refer to him as a killer. He is. You give him the ball in an attacking moment, and he can punish a team, just like he did against Benfica. That's Harvey Barnes in a nutshell. He's a different type of player. We probably needed a creator, which Brian Mbeumo was. He's a creator. We lack that in wide areas. Anthony Gordon's a runner. He'll run at players. He's not necessarily a creator, not a consistent one. Barnes isn't a creator. He's a killer. He scores goals. That's his game. The only one that is any form of creator is Jacob Murphy. And I would say the Jacob Murphy we had 2 years ago is very different to what it is now. Jacob Murphy's had his light bulb moment. The light bulb and the switch has been pressed. It's turned. And the unfortunate thing is that he's 30 now. So he's in the peak of his powers, and the light bulb moment's gone off, and he's now performing either in front of goal or creating at the level that we would want a player to do so. And Jacob Murphy, there's no doubt, will go on and have another great season for Newcastle United. He might not get as many goals and assists as he did last season, but he'll have a good season at Newcastle United. There's an argument. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised to see Johan Wieser play on right wing. Don't be surprised to see it. At sometimes and points in this season, don't be surprised to see Johan Wieser play off the front man and play in that position on wide right or wide left, but probably mostly wide right. Don't be surprised. And as I've said to you before, don't be surprised to see one or maybe two of our wingers be sold in the summer and we reinvent ourselves again. Don't be surprised to see it happen.
Two things, Pete. On Wieser, someone else would like a word on that. He's having doubts on what you're saying there. But the other thing, real point I want to go to is what you said there about Elanga was bought to play with Isak. Now, who the fuck is on the strategy at Newcastle? Because if you reading the whole transcript of what was playing out, Isak wanted to leave. He wanted a big payday. He didn't get his contract the year before, and with Paul Mitchell and everything like that. And even people say that he downed tools towards the end of the season. So Isak was no one knew was going to play out all the drama that ensued, and him in effect going on strike. So why did they still persist with going for Elanga? It's not for you guys to answer, but why did the club still go with that then? And I know they looked at him before in the January window, I think, towards near a deadline day at one point. But why did we still go back for with Elanga when keeping hold of Isak was looking fairly dodgy?
I think Ekitike was the solution. I don't know what you think, Pete. They wanted to find a replacement for Alexander Isak who was like for like. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. Hugo Ekitike was that guy. So it was either going to be Isak or Ekitike. And obviously, they ended up with neither. And then they started working their way down the list. And then we ended up with a striker like Nick Valdemar, who we absolutely adore and think is absolutely brilliant. But he is not Hugo Ekitike and he is not Alexander Isak. He's a completely different player. Yeah. Sorry, Pete, go on, mate.
No, there's sliding door moments and there's different factors in the summer. So, I know why you're asking that question, Dad, but let's not forget, before any of this Alexander Isak thing came out, we'd already had 2 bids rejected for Anthony Elanga. We knew, remember, really early on in that first Club World Cup window that Brian Mbeumo was not coming to Newcastle United. That was already evident. So we'd already looked at another option before any of this Isak and stuff started to even rumble, even to surface. We were already going in for Anthony Elanga. So Newcastle had already made their mind up at that point. We're not getting Brian Mbeumo, so we're going for Anthony Elanga. And they had Isak in mind. So we'd had a bid or two already rejected before any of that. In fact, I think Elanga was signed by then. I think he went to Germany with the rest of the squad. So he was already there. He's already signed with Isak still in the building. I do agree with Chris, though. I think Ekitike was then the option to go, okay, who's like for like, and he is very much like for like. He's at Ekitike, so that could still work. Alanga, Ekitike could still work. Then that fell through, and then I think this is already documented, but then they were insistent they were going to keep hold of Isak. Isak did what he did, and then it was a case of looking for someone as an alternative. So it was already Alanga was already in play, was already in the club before it then fell to pot. Before it fell down, he was already there. So that was part of the reason why it's not like I get what you're saying. Like exactly, us now in hindsight, we're thinking, why did they even do that? But that was the reason, because they'd already earmarked him as an alternative to Mbemo. They thought they were getting that style of player, and then they didn't. And then it's just it is what it is. He's going to take time, Anthony Langa. He's 23 years old. He's still a young lad, but he's going to take time to click. He's got the fundamentals of being a very effective player for Newcastle United, but he's going to have to learn all over again how to play in this team. And it's whether us as fans have got the patience to put up with that. That's going to be the key. If we're not going to put up with it, we're going to get frustrated and blah blah blah. It ain't going to work, and they're end up going to take a huge loss on him to move him on to another club. That's what will happen. So it's we're gonna have to decide what we want to do with that. But, yeah.
Boys, I'm going to pair a few questions together, and the reason being is because they're almost kind of alluding to the same thing. And we you probably have an idea what I'm going to say here, but we always have these type of questions, and I think it's important we talk about it, because obviously, nobody is wrong. Everyone's opinions, should be valid, and people, should listen to other people's opinions, and that's why we're here. We, like we always say, we're three lads who, would sit in the pub and have this conversation, and that's why, we hope everyone enjoys listening to us, because we're just saying our emotions and saying what we think. So when people come in the chat with questions, we love to try and answer those questions, or at least discuss them. So.
Now we're going to shit on these questions, are we?
No. I'm pairing them because there's quite a few and they're quite lengthy. And I thought, well, if I just get the topic in there, we can start flashing it out. So I'll start with you, Pete. So bear with me on this one, right? So Sophie B says, has Howe took us as far as he can? Foxy says, top 5 wasn't possible for me in pre-season. Right now, it looks even further away. We are a cup team at the moment. Howe's lack of experience in handling Europe with the Premier League is showing again. And then Cloud says, what the hell is the problem with the away form? It's been 209 days since we won away from home. Our attacking intent at home is far superior compared to how we attack away. A question that needs asking. Frieden says, is it time to let Howe go? We have not won away since April, which is the point that Clouds has just made. And Lee G says, why do we turn up against the big boys or European nights, but when it's a West Ham or a Bournemouth, Brighton, for example, or even a Leeds, we turn into Mike Ashley's Newcastle? So I'm pairing all of those together because it's almost, these questions will be at Eddie Howe's door. And some people are asking, is Eddie Howe the man to take us forward? Other people are saying, is Eddie Howe's time come to an end? What are your thoughts in general on those comments, Pete? And how are you feeling about the situation as it stands?
Yeah, well, firstly, I feel quite privileged that I was actually at the last game that we won away. That was left away.
Your fault.
Yeah, no.
Go to another away game, Pete. Come on,
Davy out.
Maybe I need to. Maybe I need to get a ticket for the next one and make sure that I'm there. But yeah. And I have to say, I'm really glad. I mentioned it earlier. I'm really glad the journalists are asking Eddie Howe these tough questions after today. And I need the journalists to ask more of these questions from a personal point of view. I need Eddie Howe to be answering these questions because, hey, if you want to do that, Foxy, I'm there. Like, get me there. Get me a ticket. I'll be there. Just not in the home end. I don't do that. I only want to be with the away fans. But yeah, Eddie Howe absolutely needs to be answering these questions about the away form, because it's not good enough. It's not good enough for a team that we aspire to be so passive and just poor and pathetic. going away from home in the way that we set up and the way that we play. It has to be better. However, look, questions about Eddie Howe's future. No, like it's not happening for me. People might have a feeling about that. That's fine. Eddie Howe's position at this football club is not in question. It's not in question. Is Eddie Howe perfect?
I like that one.
You've got no chance, and he's got no chance. I might be a lucky charm, but I don't want to be a lucky charm for Congo. If anything, I want them losing matches so we can keep Wisa with us. Actually, really quickly on that, I actually think Wisa will not go to the AFCON. I'm convinced of it now.
Is that because you've taken Congo over in Football Manager, Pete? And even though you can't play international football and you've excluded them from the squad, yeah? Never mind. Carry on.
I wouldn't touch them with a barge pole. Oh, by the way, Football Manager, it is a hell of a game, but that's a separate conversation. With Eddie Howe, I'm not entertaining that conversation personally about him being out. I know Ravishing Rude, what a name. Any wrestling fans will know, legend. But I don't agree with you. I'm not a Howe out. Howe is not perfect. Howe has made mistakes. He made bad mistakes today in game. And actually, you touched on a point, Chris, that was really interesting because, like, all the tactical changes and stuff, it reminds me of a number of games last season, like Bournemouth at home, for example. He started making these wild changes, and it just like didn't work, and it was like he'd almost kind of given up the game. That's kind of how it felt today. He'd kind of given up the game, so just making all these changes just to manage players, and the tactics were all over the place, and that's how they got the third goal. Those things he needs to be better at. He needs to be better at. He needs to manage these situations better. The only benefit to us is that Eddie Howe will try and make these things better. He will always look to improve these situations and make changes where necessary, which is why we need him to make these changes. His position should not be under question. He's had to deal with too much crap over the last 2 or 3 years. Outside the club, inside the club. He's had to work on really tight margins for the last 2 years. And as well, let's not forget, he delivered us a trophy and is 2 or 3 games away from potentially doing the same again. We cannot forget that in what he does, but he has to start making decisions on players. Like for me, Gordon and Joe Linton are the first two. There needs to be consequences for action. So no, I'm not entertaining that at this moment in time about Eddie Howe, but absolutely the away form has to be addressed. He needs to answer that question. It has to be addressed. We have to set up better. We have to, because this is not good enough. We had a set of players that were on that pitch today were far superior to West Ham. There was no reason why they should not have been performing today. And he has to get to the crux of why that happened and make sure that doesn't happen again, because we cannot afford to keep dropping points.
Where are you with all this stuff and all those questions?
Yeah, can you bring up all the comments again, Chris, or did you delete them? I know you deleted them, so that's why I'm not going to ask you to do that. But I was like, oh. But no, on this one, I've kind of made peace with. First of all, I'm Eddie Howe in. And I will be all season, and will be all next season, depending on how things are going. But so I kind of made peace with this season because it's been a mess since the start, and too many things have gone wrong, especially with who and then how that all played out. And we didn't start off in the right fashion. Season. I had high hopes for us if we had kept what we had and built on top of that, but the too much mess and it just threw us off track. And it'll take us a while to adjust. It's a season of learning. I agree with what Foxy had. One of the comments Foxy had, because we are seem to be a cup team as things stand. But we also, if you think of a classic yo-yo team, you think of West Brom. They were always in the Premier League when you're out relegated in Championship and getting back in again. I think that's us, but not in the Premier, in a sense that for the Champions League. We're in it one season. When we're in it, then we don't have a great season in the Premier League, and then when we're not in it, the following season, then we were able to get back into the Champions League again. It seems that there's a pattern there, and we seem to be one season good, one season bad, whatever you want to look at it. But I don't know. I would only be Eddie Howe out if we didn't get Champions League this season, and next season we weren't looking like we're getting Champions League again, and we were miles off the pace, and there was no big run coming for us either. Then that's the only reason I would be considering looking at alternatives to Eddie Howe. But so for me, he's got this season, and he could well win a cup, unless we win the Champions League and he gets us back in the Champions League. Highly unlikely, but I can't see us. I don't see us getting Champions League football this season. I think we'll get Europe. I don't think we'll get Champions League. And even if we do get lucky and go on a run, too many things have and it is bunched, I know, in the league at the moment, but still that away form, we're going nowhere with it. And we need everything to gel, get Wiesta back as well, and build on that again in January. So yeah, one season on, one season off, it is for me, and I'm okay with that at this moment in time, but there may come a time when that may change.
We've got a few more questions to answer before we wrap, but I wanted to leave this comment up and ask Pete to follow up on this. So Michael says, Eddie said, I didn't see this in his post-match, but Eddie said he'd never seen body language like this from his players since he's been the manager. This comment from Michael made me think, do you and I'll ask Daz, I will ask you this question as well. Do you see this as our Leyton Orient moment, where it's that bad? And anyone in the chat who's wondering what I'm talking about, many years ago when we had our lovely, I remember the strip, the horrible yellow wallpaper strip, and we played Leyton Orient in the pre-season friendly, and I think we lost 6-1. I think it was, and apparently there was a lot of things said behind the scenes, and players were told basically to do one if they weren't committed. Am I being a bit dramatic here, Pete? But do you think it was that bad that Eddie Howe's going to be, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Wielding the axe. There will be some home truths in that dressing room after the game today, I'm sure. But do you think it's that dramatic because of how bad that performance was? And it was as a collective. We're not talking about one or two players here. There was a number of players who underperformed. What do you think the repercussions of today will be?
It's probably a little bit over dramatic with the Leyton Orient thing. We were in a much worse situation than that. I do remember it.
That performance, wasn't it? It was really bad. Yeah, and him saying that,
it was a horror show. It was an absolute horror show. But what I will say is that the fact that Eddie Howe was mentioned directly that the body language wasn't good enough tells you everything you need to know. He normally tries to keep things in-house, but the fact that he's mentioning it means that he recognizes that there's something quite not right with some of these players. There's something quite not right. And for me, the big one is Anthony Gordon. It is. Nick Volter for me looked shattered. That was, and to be fair, he does kind of mention that, because he talks about the fact that the body language wasn't right, and he does mention that some of it may be related to fatigue, and I think that is Nick Volter.
Yeah.
But Anthony Gordon, though, that's a different conversation. He was on the bench against Spurs. He barely came on. I think he only had a few minutes at the end of the game. That is not fatigue. That is attitude. That body language was everything that we don't want, and we saw too much last season. That was what we need to look at, and we need to make better decisions with our selections off the back of that. And this is why I keep saying consequences need to be in place for certain players, and he is absolutely one of them. Joelinton's another one. It's hard to say whether this is our moment for change until we see it. We've got to see it. Whether it's on Wednesday, whether it's on Sunday, we need to see whether there's going to be a change there. There's no point putting all those players back into the team again because then there's no change. Like, there isn't a moment there. I want to actually physically see change. I want to see Ramsdale in the team. I want to see Anthony Gordon on the bench, and I want to see Barnes playing. I want to see Joe Linton out. I want to see Ramsey in. That's what I want to see. I want to see that change. And I don't want to just see it for one game. I want him to be like, right, you're my guys moving forward. I'm going to give you an opportunity to show me what your worth is. These boys are going to ride bench, and they're going to watch you. Make them stay on the bench. Make them play better. Because, look, everything's riding on it. Like, I agree with what you said earlier, Chris, is that I want Anthony Gordon on the bench because I don't want him thinking he's just going to play in the Champions League, do what he needs to do to get into the England squad. For me, I'm an England fan, but my priority is Newcastle United. I don't care about England when it comes to Newcastle. I want him with his mindset on us, not them. And if it means that he rides the bench for the next few games and it doesn't get him his England call up, so be it. He needs to play better and more consistently for Newcastle United. And you know what? If he doesn't like it, go play somewhere else. I'm not wedded to Anthony Gordon. It's not I'm going to be distraught if Anthony Gordon goes. This isn't like a situation with other players that have left in the past where it's going to be like devastating to lose a top player. Anthony Gordon, if he gets sold to another club, if he goes to Arsenal or Liverpool, fine. We'll get someone else that will do the job. I can't bothered. I'm really not bothered. If his attitude ain't right, move him on. But I need to see changes being made. I need to see it. And I want to see it on Wednesday and Sunday.
Daz, do you think Eddie Howe has got the balls to make these changes? Do you think the fans want to see these changes? Do we want, like Pete just mentioned there, do we want to see the same 11 against Bilbao and then hopefully, go and win 3-1 and everyone's made up and happy, and then we go to Brentford and just get turned over again? Or do you think Eddie Howe is going to be like, right, enough's enough now? What do you think?
Look, I do think he has the balls to make the changes. I think he changed everyone apart from Dan Burn. He won't drop Dan Burn. And I think he will ring the changes, but I'm going to double down on what I said earlier. I know people are disagreeing with me. The Conlon disagree with me. I would still play Gordon in the Champions League to get that out of him because I want to win the game. And so does everyone else. I'm not saying we wouldn't win it with Barnes in the team, but I would send the message then at that point. But I'd use him. I'd use him like he's using us at this moment in time to get what we want from him, and then send the message. That's just me because I want to win the game.
No. And to be fair, Daz, I know where you're coming from because we all know as a panel that Anthony Gordon, if he starts on Wednesday, will perform. He probably will have a really good game. But it's then what happens at the weekend against.
Oh, I know that, but if you could also spiral. You drop him, and he takes a huff, and again, then we don't want him at the club anyway. If that was the case, we've enough of that kind of carry on all summer long. So I just. I'm happy that it's a decision for Eddie Howe to make because he knows the guys better than anyone else. But it also cannot continue that this kind of turning up for the big games and just not turning up at all or just playing for yourself kind of attitude. On your bike if that's the case.
Yeah. Right. Few more, boys. Few more. Let me see. I love this comment from Vavishin Rick Rude, who I think this is Pete who started this, but I love it. And he said, I don't get it, but I love it. Cut the music before I take off my robe and show you what a real sexy man looks like. I'm sure he says that. Does he?
That was his thing. For anyone, Vavishin Rude was a wrestler in the 80s and 90s. Sadly passed away. in the early 2000s, I think it was. It might have been the late 90s, but yeah, he used to say that because he used to have like his robe on, like chiseled body, like there'd be all the women in the crowd just going mad for him, and he'd say a line, something along the lines of that. So I just thought I'd start because it was class. But yeah, it's all good, all good. Fun and games.
Dazzler. So looking ahead, which is what we always do. We always do this. Tom Dixon says our next 3 games in the league: Brentford away, City at home, Everton away. How many points do you reckon we will get?
After today, I'm thinking 0. Maybe 1 at home because we cannot play a win away. And I worry for you, Chris, and that Everton away game. And Brentford, like I had Brentford going down, but they are performing. Keith Andrews is getting a tune out of them, which I'm very surprised about. And yeah, look, we've never had easy games against Brentford. I know it was under the Thomas Frank era. I'm a bit worried about those fixtures coming up. And we can't just be a team that turns up at home and gets a result there, even though it's against Man City. That's back to the Gini Wijnaldum era where you could only score at home, couldn't score away. No, I don't know. I think I'm 1 at this moment in time. 1.
Yeah, Gini Wijnaldum, as we used to call him.
Yeah.
Pete, does it worry? Well, am I wrong? First, and secondly, does it worry you that I think that like the most appealing game of those 3 is probably the Man City at home game? Purely because I'm thinking 1, we're at home. 2, because we're playing Man City, we'll probably really raise our levels. And 3, if you can manage to keep Haaland quiet, which is not easy, you almost shut City down a little bit. Because I'm looking at the Brentford game and I'm looking at the Everton game, and I'm worried about both. I'll be honest. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm the complete opposite.
Really?
I don't see us getting anything at City. City at our place. I don't see us getting anything there. I think they're just starting to kick into gear. Yes, they can be got at, but their attacking line, and they've just got like the likes of Cherky and Reinders, and I think there's a couple of others that are coming back into the team. Doku played well today. I think they're going to be strong. I don't put and our record against them at St James's isn't great anyway. So I don't see us getting anything in that game. But actually, I think our best option is the 2 away games. I think Everton's our best chance of getting points. If we sit in and resolute and hit them on the counter attack, we can beat Everton. It has been proven. You know, that's exactly what sort of Tottenham did, really. So they sat in, very difficult to break down, and hit them when they needed to, and they won the game. And I think that's going to be our way of beating Everton. I think that's our best way of getting 3 points. But for me, I'm sorry, we have to get 3 points against Brentford. We have to. Like, people won't agree that it's a must-win game. It absolutely is. We need to keep touch with the rest of the teams that we're fighting for in the Premier League. We look at that situation with the likes of Aston Villa at the beginning of the season. Oh, they're struggling. They're right down there. Well, they're 3 points ahead of us now? They're 3 points ahead of us, and we're now the ones that everyone's looking at and going, oh, Newcastle struggling. And yes, we're doing all right in the Champions League and Carabao Cup, but we're struggling in the Premier League, and we want to be in the Champions League or in European football again. And at this moment in time, the way we're playing in the Premier League, we won't get Europe, let alone be back in the Champions League. Because the way we're playing right now, you've got Bournemouth, albeit they lost today, that still look very, very good. You've got Palace that are playing really, really well. Chelsea are just doing enough to tick along. Villa are improving. There's 4 teams before we've even started outside of Man City, Liverpool, and Arsenal, who, regardless of Liverpool's form, will pick up wins to put them back up there. I think they were second or are second at this moment in time, or they were going into today's games. Like, regardless of their form, they're still up there. So that, you know, you're looking at that situation. You got like that's 7 teams before you even started. So, you know, we have to be picking up points. essential we win against Brentford. It's going to be massively difficult. Eddie Howe's going to have to pull out a masterclass to get these boys winning that game. I don't know what he's going to need to do, but he's going to need to do it because we need to win. So ultimately, I'm going to be positive on this, and I'm going to go 6 points. But those 6 points are going to the 2 away games.
Okay.
You go to both those away games, then, Pete? You must be.
Someone's got a ticket. They want to transfer.
I'm here. Just the last thing I'll say, because we have finished with the comments. I just wanted to add, and it's not all doom and gloom. And I will look on bookmakers' websites, because not that it paints a picture, but it kind of tells you where everyone's head's at the moment. So I've looked at the top 5 finish in the Premier League. Now, Arsenal aren't included. You can't bet on Arsenal to finish in the top 5. Shock. But the other teams, so you can bet on Man City at 1-25. You can bet on Liverpool at 1-25. So for anyone who doesn't understand that, if you put £25 on, you win £1. So that kind of tells you where they think, the chances are of City and Liverpool finishing in the top 5. Next is Chelsea at 4-6. So they're saying that Chelsea will finish 4th. Next, after Chelsea, is Man United, who are 6-5. And then, boys, after that is Newcastle at 5-2. So clearly the bookies are still giving Newcastle a fighting chance. Gives us a little bit of hope, you could argue. Then it's Bournemouth, Palace, Tottenham, Brighton. All those teams are below us still in those odds.
Villa.
So, Villa are even below Brighton, 9-2. So clearly,
Sunderland. Just out of curiosity,
Sunderland are 40-1 to finish in the top.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the outsiders being Wolves. Wolves are the outsiders at 150-1, and obviously they sacked their manager today, didn't they, Victor Pereira? So he's been shown the door. But yeah, it just kind of shows. So taking away the odds for a moment, they're almost saying Newcastle. They think Newcastle are going to finish 6th as things stand. That's almost what they're saying. So there's still time for us to turn it round, and all is not lost, even though it does hurt today, definitely hurts. And I think it's what we saw on the pitch as well, which is probably worrying us more than anything. So it's vitally important we bounce back on Wednesday against Bilbao. And then obviously all attention has to be focused on the Brentford game. But that is it for the questions, boys.
Right. Okay. So to end this off, we need to have something a bit more positive, boys. Right. So let's say his name 3 times. Pete, who is the tall German lad that plays an attack that we love?
Big Nick Energy.
That's
Big
the one.
Nick Ultimator.
Chris, who's the tall German lad with the porn star looks that plays a bit like Messi?
Nick Walter Messi.
And we love him. Let's play out with the Walter Med. Walter Love. See you in the next one. Good night, everyone.
Come on, move a little closer. Come on, I wanna hear you whisper. Come on, settle down inside my love. Accidentally in 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 love. Accidentally, come on, spin a little tighter. Come on, and the world's a little brighter. Come on, just get yourself inside her love.